I used to think weddings brought out the best in people. Turns out, they also bring out the truth, the kind that hides behind smiles, lace veils, and champagne flutes. My sister, Rachel, always had a flair for the dramatic. She was the golden child, smart, beautiful, magnetic. I was the quieter one, the dependable shadow who took her late-night calls and listened to her cry over men who didn't deserve her. When she announced she was getting married, I was genuinely happy for her, until I learned who the groom was. Evan. My ex-boyfriend. Not an old fling, not some distant high school crush. Evan, the man I had dated for 3 years. The man I thought I'd marry. Rachel claimed they met by chance, months after he and I broke up. She swore she didn't know. But the look in her eyes when she told me? It was the kind of guilt that stings with pride. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Our mother was sick then, and she wanted nothing more than to see both her daughters happy, together. So I swallowed my rage, smiled through my cracked heart, and agreed to be her maid of honor. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could stay invisible, keep my dignity. Then the wedding day came. The ceremony was held at an old vineyard, sunlight spilling through the vines like liquid gold. Everything looked perfect, white roses, polished silver, the soft hum of violins. Everyone had someone to sit with, to toast with, to laugh with. Everyone but me. When I arrived at the reception, my name card was placed at the farthest corner of the hall. Table 14. Alone. Every other table had couples or families. But mine was a forgotten island. No one came to sit beside me. Not even a distant cousin. It was deliberate, I knew it. Rachel's eyes flicked toward me when I looked her way, smug, just for a second, before she turned back to her perfect guests. I tried to play it off, pretending to scroll through my phone, sipping at my glass of cheap white wine. But humiliation is heavy. It presses down on your chest until you can barely breathe. I could feel people glancing my way, whispering. Maybe they pitied me, maybe they didn't care. Either way, I wanted to vanish. That's when he appeared. A tall man in a dark suit approached my table, carrying a glass of whiskey. He had sharp features softened by a kind smile. His tie was loosened, as if he didn't quite belong there either. He leaned down slightly and said, "Act like you're with me." Before I could respond, he sat down beside me, smiling easily as if we were mid-conversation. "I'm David," he whispered under his breath. "You looked like you needed a rescue." I let out a shaky laugh. "You have no idea." He raised his glass. "To surviving weddings." For the first time that night, I smiled for real. We started talking, nothing deep at first. Music, bad dancing, the overcooked chicken. But then, as the night went on, our conversation grew more personal. He wasn't just charming, he was observant. He noticed everything, how my hand trembled slightly when Rachel and Evan made their grand entrance, how I avoided eye contact when people toasted to everlasting love. Finally, he asked, "You okay?" I hesitated, but something about him made me open up. I told him everything. How Rachel stole Evan. How I was forced to smile and pretend I was happy. How I'd been pushed aside, forgotten. David listened quietly, his jaw tightening just a little. When I finished, he said, "You don't deserve that." None of it. It should have ended there, a stranger's kindness, a fleeting moment of comfort. But fate had a different plan. Halfway through the evening, the DJ called for the bouquet toss. Rachel stood in the center of the dance floor, laughing, her dress shimmering like moonlight. I stayed seated, sipping my wine, but she noticed me. "Linda," she called out over the mic, voice dripping with mock cheer. "Come on, you're still single, right? You need this more than anyone." Laughter rippled through the crowd. My stomach twisted. I wanted to run, but before I could move, David's hand covered mine. "Stand up," he murmured. "Trust me." He walked me to the floor, our hands still linked. The crowd watched as I joined the other women. Rachel's grin faltered just a little when she saw David beside me. The bouquet soared through the air. I didn't reach for it, but it landed in my arms anyway. Gasps, laughter, applause. Rachel's smile was thin as paper. Later, as the music picked up again, David leaned in close and whispered, "Want to make this more interesting?" "What do you mean?" I asked. He smirked. "Let's make them think you're not alone after all." Before I could protest, he pulled me toward the dance floor. The lights dimmed, and the slow melody of "Can't Help Falling in Love" began. People moved aside, watching us. My pulse quickened as his hand rested gently on my waist. "Relax," he said softly. "Just follow my lead." We danced, slow, steady, intimate. I could feel Rachel's glare from across the room. And when Evan turned to look, confusion crossed his face. For once, they weren't the center of attention. We were. When the song ended, the applause was louder than I expected. David bowed dramatically, making me laugh. For a few precious moments, I felt powerful again, seen. After that night, David and I kept in touch. Texts, phone calls, then dinners. He was kind, funny, grounded. It felt effortless. But something about him always carried a shadow, a hint of something unsaid. One evening, months later, he confessed. "I wasn't just a guest that night," he said quietly. "Evan's company screwed my sister out of her job. He took credit for her work, and she got fired. When I found out he was marrying your sister, I wanted to see what kind of people they really were." My stomach turned. "So you came to the wedding to, what? Spy?" "At first," he admitted. "But then I saw you. Alone. And I couldn't just watch." His honesty hit me like a wave. For a while, I didn't know if I could trust him. But the more time I spent with David, the more I realized his anger wasn't like mine. It wasn't about destruction. It was about justice. Together, we made a plan. Rachel and Evan ran a small marketing firm, one they built using contacts and clients stolen from my old portfolio. I'd noticed, but I never fought it. Until now. David and I collected everything: emails, proposals, timestamps, even screenshots of Rachel bragging about stealing clients from me. He knew exactly how to present it. Within months, an anonymous report landed on the desk of their biggest investor. It didn't take long for their world to crumble. Contracts pulled. Clients fled. Rumors spread. The firm folded in less than a year. The day Rachel called me, crying, I sat in my kitchen listening in silence. "I don't understand," she sobbed. "Everything's falling apart. We didn't do anything wrong." I wanted to tell her the truth, that karma had finally caught up, but instead, I said softly, "Maybe it's just bad luck." The call ended. I stared at my reflection in the window, the sunset bleeding orange across the sky. My hands trembled, not with guilt, but with release. Months later, I married David in a small courthouse ceremony. No grand stage, no audience, just us, and the quiet promise of something real. When the vows were done, he whispered, "You sure you're not doing this just for revenge?" I smiled. Revenge was just the beginning. This is the rest of my life. He laughed softly, kissed my forehead, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. Sometimes, justice doesn't come with sirens or confessions. Sometimes it comes quietly, disguised as love that walks up to your table, smiles, and says, "Act like you're with me."